call the meeting to order. Would everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to welcome tonight to the December 15th, 2025 City Council meeting. Can I have a roll call? City Clerk Price.
Yes, Councilperson Beckman.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Morrissey.
Here.
Palladino.
Here.
Sokak.
Present.
Stucho.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
Mayor Sessions.
Here.
All present.
All right, thank you. We move into approval of agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion in favor of approving the agenda?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Support.
I have a motion by Councilman, oh no, I have a motion by Councilman Morrissey and a second by Councilman Flynn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. We have an agenda. I will now open up the public comment on agenda items only. Please state your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. The podium is now open.
Hello. Speaking on the Kiefer debacle, you guys have absolutely no issues holding things like Course Isle or Camp Hope or Hope Harbor or Hope House, or you guys don't have any issues going after organizations that you do not like when they are having issues with the rules. Kiefer's been having issues with the rules and regulations and ordinances for quite some time now, and anybody who's been voting to uphold your rules and regulations and all this stuff, if you vote for extending the Kiefer once again, well, I think that's the corruption here in this county and city.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Felicia Finch, Hillsdale Township resident, downtown city of Hillsdale business owner.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. I'm here today to discuss the city of Hillsdale's homeless and Hope Harbor. The last meeting when Hope Harbor Camp Hope came to speak to the council, it was poorly led. Hope Harbor should have followed decorum and waited to speak when it was asked. When they started speaking, they should have been kindly asked to wait. The back and forth banter arguing is not how city council is supposed to be ran. This was a lengthy topic and poorly directed. With that being said, we all need to do better and figure this all out. They've been here, they're not going anywhere. Camp Hope filled a short-term need for homeless housing. When public camping ordinances changed and or were enforced fully, I do not agree with everything to do with Camp Hope or its board and directors. But they did something while everyone did nothing but watch. I wish they had done it lawfully and timely complied. However, they did not and were fined and should pay accordingly. Now we have Hope Harbor, hopefully not the same crap, but a different day. I think they could get a lot further if the old directors completely vacated the picture and didn't puppeteer from the sidelines. The pot is sour with the community, the city, and the old board of directors. In order to move forward, they need to move beyond them. So what can we do? Saying I don't want them in my backyard, they're here regardless of Hope Harbor. Move them out of town, this won't work either. They need access to shopping, medical offices, public transportation, jobs, etc. So how about we work with Hope Harbor instead of against them? We can also work with the Share the Warmth too, but be mindful that these are two different types of places with different goals. Hope Harbor could put a privacy fence up at the full length of the back of the property. They could have a fully fenced-in outdoor space with outdoor curfews. This should eliminate Apple Run issues. They could eventually expand space if zoned and permitted properly. They need to provide the nonprofit license, apply for state grants, and follow local rules and regulations. But the city needs to adapt an ordinance for homelessness, transitional housing, and homeless shelters. There needs to be a clear outline in place. Work with Share the Warmth and Hope Harbor to find what best suits this community. Zoning can be changed, you do it all the time for other organizations. That is what variances are for. But come up with these rules and regulations, and don't forget the Bill of Rights of Homeless Act House Bill number 4197. They have rights too. Not all homeless people are addicts. Some are families, one paycheck away from losing it all, and then it happened. These are our fellow community members. They're real people, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, moms, dads. You as a council can find a way if you wanted to. Hope Harbor needs to follow through, but asking them now to kick people out at sub-zero temps, this should be clear mission that for the city council to do in this new year. Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the podium and move into the consent agenda. We have approval of bills, city and BPU claims of November 26, 2025 of $945,331.49. Payroll of December 4th, 2025 of $525,48. City council minutes of December 5th, 2025. Finance minutes of December 15th, 2025. Cemetery minutes of November 12th, 2025. LAC minutes of December 10th, 2025. And DART accessibility plan 2026. Committee meeting dates. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I do believe the city council minutes, letter D, should read as of December 1st, since today is December 15th.
Okay, I
You
think,
really haven't met yet.
Yes, I supplied you with a new,
Oh, that's what that's for.
yeah, that's fine, yeah, sorry, okay, so yeah,
thanks for the catch.
No problem.
should be December 1st, 2025. Very good. Okay, so may I have a motion with that?
Mr. Mayor.
We should
Yes.
probably do the same for the finance committee minutes.
Finance, oh yeah,
Good point.
yep, all one. Okay, yes, Mr. Councilman Bentley.
I may have missed it, but are there minutes for the last week's meeting?
I didn't have those on yet, so
Oh,
we'll have those.
thank you.
Okay, so
I'd make a motion then that we approve the amended consent agenda.
okay. I have a motion by Councilman Flynn, supported by Councilman Morrissey. May I have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price.
Yes, Councilperson Bruns,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes?
Morrissey,
Yes.
Palladino,
Yes.
Silver,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Henry.
Yes.
9-0 is approved.
All right, thank you. We'll go in communication petition, Hillsdale City, Hillsdale County Commissioner update, Doug Ingles.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager. A couple items tonight. The Board of Commissioners did approve a tentative budget. It is a balanced budget of $16,226,532 of revenues and expenses for 2026. This tentative budget will go to our December 23rd meeting. There will be a public hearing prior to discussing, amending, and approving the budget for 2026. That number is up from $15,675,662 in 2025. Wages, healthcare, repayment of loans, maintaining departments are included in the 2026 budget. It's a very tight budget with about $17,000 of flexibility when it was all said and done. This year there were $1 million of requests that had to be looked at. Today, the Housing Study Commission met. DeSalvo is a firm selected to determine data on housing and needs for the community. The study will ask manufacturing, commercial, realtors, schools, hospital, college on what is needed for rental and owner-occupied housing in Hillsdale County. Hillsdale, City of Hillsdale, Jonesville, Litchfield, and Reading all participated in today's meeting. The Board of Commissioners has received a request for a new waste disposal facility from Lake Pleasant Recycling. Per Eagle, the county approval agency, which is the Board of Commissioners, must provide a letter of approval for that process to proceed. The Board of Commissioners did create that process. We did not have that process in place. We have established at first the request goes to the township or city where it is located, then it goes to our material management committee, then it will go to the Board of Commissioners for approval, and then it goes from there to the laundry list of requirements that Eagle has. And this will absolutely be a positive for our community, and so we look forward to having a new waste disposal and recycling facility in Hillsdale County. And that completes my update for right now. If you have any questions, please do ask.
Any questions?
That would replace what facility right now?
Would not replace it, would be an addition.
On addition?
Yes, we have LRS, there are other Sterling and Stevens that have come into our community. Paul Cunningham, who's the owner of Lake Pleasant Recycling, wants to expand his business into doing recycling for customers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this would be county-run, county-owned, county-operated? or
No,
just-
that's the beauty, it's not government, it's private.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Councilman Bentley.
The housing study,
Yes.
can you remind us how much it cost, what, how long
Yes.
it's gonna take, and what do you expect to do about it?
Yes, so it's a good project. EDP is helping to coordinate it. City of Hillsdale, City Manager Mackey, Assistant City Manager Sam Fry was there in attendance today. Also had the other cities and other interested business people attending. In fact, hadn't sat I was in Councilperson Flynn's chair today. Haven't been up there in a while. To answer your question, the study, DeSalvo is the group that was decided as the firm to conduct the study. Their rate is $35,000. Fundraising is in place right now. There will be outreach to receive the funds needed to accomplish that $35,000. Right now, there's $16,000 tentatively ready to go. And so what will that study do? They will ask the questions, find the data, which will be very helpful for manufacturing and others as they are recruiting for employees to come and live and purchase homes in our community in Hillsdale County.
Good, thank you.
Councilman Flynn.
Do you have a start date / end date for that study?
Well, first the funding's got to kick in. Once they have the $35,000, then it moves forward. So right now they're trying to find ways to either receive donations or outreach those who would be interested in participating. So that answer is to be determined.
But is it a 6-month study, a year study, and once they get started, they don't give you a guideline of how long it will take them?
I don't have that information. Sam, any idea?
Generally, about 9 months, I would say, is a good ballpark.
They have to do a study to do the study. It's government, right? Anyway, that was a joke.
Any more questions for Commissioner Ingles? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, and Merry Christmas. All right, we'll go into introduction and adoption of ordinance, public hearing, Hillsdale Energy Waste Reduction EWR Plan, City Manager Mackey.
So I believe, Mayor, this was tabled to this meeting, so we will need to reopen the public hearing. I don't know if you want me to speak before that, or do you want to open the public hearing?
I can have you speak first.
Okay. Very good. So after the last meeting, or the public hearing on December 1st, the City Council requested that staff attempt to update the plan to charge all customers by their kilowatt usage. I know this was something Councilman Palladino was focused on. The attached plan achieves that goal. It did take a bit more work with the spreadsheets, because it had to basically be somewhat rebuilt on part of it. But we were able to get that done, and I think well, I know it achieves the goal that we were hoping for. So additionally, you'll see behind attachment A is an example of the projected customer charges based on various customer usages by classification. So we broke that down for businesses and residential. So like say our largest business would be about $42 a month, where a small apartment, like a one-bedroom apartment here in town, would be like 10 cents a month. So instead of it being a flat rate for either residential or commercial, it will all be based on usage, and the numbers all seem to work out appropriately based on small, medium, and large businesses, and small, medium, and large houses, as I indicated. A small house, two bedroom, one bath. Example from our records, you use about 564 kilowatt hours per month. So they'd be charged 28 cents a month, or $3.38 a year. The same thing, and I will say, like the residential one, that's $1,534 kilowatt hours per month. That's a larger home, and they'd be a little over $9 a year. So it's much more affordable than the flat rate that the original plan had indicated. I did take this to the BPU board last Tuesday, and they looked at the numbers and felt this was a much better plan, with the hopes that the state would look at revisiting this legislation and maybe rescind it or modify it. But they felt this plan achieved the goal of getting it down for those who use the least.
All right, at this time I will open up the podium for the public hearing. Seeing no public, I will close the podium and we'll go into council discussion. Is there any, Councilman Flynn?
Just a quick question for Dave. If the legislature does decide to review this and maybe even disband it altogether after a year or so, do the rates then go back? Or are they looked at again to see where they should be at that time?
Well, if they were to rescind the law that they had passed, then we could eliminate this and actually get rid of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Paladino.
Thank you. Thank you for adjusting this. I mean, that seems like the most strictly equitable way to administer a program. So it seems like the best way to administer what I think everyone admits is bad policy. So thank you for doing that. I was looking into the legislation about the allocations. These, so 25% for low income, 32% for residential, et cetera. That seems to be set by law based on what I was reading. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're still going to be in the problem though where it now is going to be more of a redistribution from industrial to low income. But other than that, it seems to have solved the majority of the pricing issue. Is that right?
I would agree with you on that.
Okay, and I was just brainstorming that you don't have any ideas of how to make it that's set in law. There's no way to make the amount that you take from people the amount that is given back in assistance.
If we can achieve the goal based on the law at a less cost, then we can lower what we're charging, because it backs into a number of what it costs us to do.
Okay, that's a good point. So what is the amount now? It was 350-ish?
351, and
351. So that's not a state mandate. That's just a target amount that you think will be necessary to achieve the reduction?
Correct.
Okay, so that's good. So you're gonna be searching for the most efficient ways to receive the reduction, and then based on that number, you could possibly lower the per kilowatt hour charge
For those items.
based in next year. Okay, great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate doing that. Last question. Does this require any more administrative overhead? Because it does seem slightly more complex, but maybe on the other hand, you just plug it into a formula based on what their rates are.
There will be some administration involved in that. It is included in the budget as you can do up to 10 or 12%, I believe, for administration and review. So it doesn't equate to a whole bunch for us, but it will help with the reporting that we have to do annually to the state and, just the monitoring.
Okay, but in terms of doing per kilowatt hour versus a flat rate, that's not adding a big burden to the BPU. I'm just worried, we're taking, 100% of this money and then we're losing 12%. We're not losing more by doing it based on this new method. It can just be plugged into the rates that are charged per household.
Yes.
Okay, so that's not additional
So whether
overhead.
So whether it's a flat rate or a calculated rate, we can put the formula within the bill program and it'll calculate for us.
Okay, perfect. So that's no additional. And then what is the projected administrative overhead? I thought I read 7% somewhere, but it's maximum of 12 under law.
Yes, it is. If you look on the spreadsheet, we have it called out on the bottom, and that is administration and evaluation percentage is 12%.
Okay. Okay, well, hopefully that can be got down. Oh, that's so frustrating, taking money just to administer a new program. I guess that's government. Thank you.
Councilman Flynn.
Dave, if passed tonight, when will customers start seeing this charge on their bill? January, or does it take a while to get it to?
They will start seeing it in January.
Thank you.
Councilman Bentley.
So the projected amount that you'll take in is how much?
Annually, between $351,000.
351. And then the distributing it will be the hard part, and that's where the administration will come in, I suppose. And how much thought has been given to that so far?
So, part of that is the program that we've already been a part of called Efficiency Smart. They work with us on rebates and lighting and different things like that, both residential and commercial and industrial. But with this size of reduction, we'll probably have to get into some additional rebates, and that'll be part of the administration, I suppose. Whether it's air conditioning units or recycling refrigerators, things that we haven't historically done, we'll as part of this program, we'll have to explore.
And so the 12% is just on the collecting part, or on both parts together?
So that's on both the entire administration. So between the two, it's like $37,000 between the administration and the evaluation.
So I guess I would like to say, well done. This is a giant improvement from the last one we saw. I still will be voting against it because I think it's not at our level, but at the next level. I just soon call it bluff. I think it's a fake mandate, so I'll be voting no.
Councilman Soha.
Thank you, Mayor. To add to that, if we didn't pass this tonight, the state has its own option. Would we be forced into that? As I recall, they have their own.
They do have their own program. No one has been able to give us an answer on that yet. What the penalty will be if you do not provide a plan.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
is there even a general provision that the state can file a civil lawsuit against the city under this act?
I believe there is a provision in there, and I'm not sure if the lawsuit would come from the state or if it would, who is able to file that. But I believe there is, I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay. Do you know what the first reporting deadline is?
It's an annual report, so it would be next year about this time.
Okay. So we could have a whole new administration by then?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way to, from a code enforcement or zoning perspective, try to achieve some of these goals? You know, you can't have trash bags over your windows. Those sort of low-hanging fruit, I don't know if that's gonna get us to 1.5%. I just wonder if that's a way we could try to meet these goals within the existing legal structure.
There are some low-hanging fruit that you know, that we can go after still. Unfortunately, you know, we've been working on this voluntarily for several years now, so we've gotten a lot of the low-hanging fruit.
Okay.
You know, the streetlights, both residential and commercial, that might be some of those things that we can get that achieve a lot of savings that might not cost that much.
Okay.
In the scheme of things, and those could be applied on the residential side, but once you eliminate them, as you've indicated, getting that next 1.5% gets tougher and tougher the more
Yeah.
you become
No,
efficient.
Right. We talked about this years ago, but it's something like a midnight to 4 a.m. shut off of certain city lights, or even just shutting off every other one. Is something like that even possible? Would that require too much technical support to make it financially workable?
I don't, that would be something I'd have to look into, Councilman. Yeah, I haven't looked into that quite yet. The way they're strung and hung up, I'm not sure if it could be done, but
Okay.
I'm sure I can get an answer relatively quickly from our staff.
Okay. And then I don't know if we asked this last time, but what is the year-over-year percentage increase that we're currently working with? Are we at a percentage increase, or are we fairly steady?
You mean for electric
Electric
increases?
Yes.
Typically, like the last several years, it's been 1 to 2% at the most, I believe.
So we're possibly looking at a 3.5% reduction in real terms.
Potentially, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Stucci.
Yeah, Dave, I'm just curious, by passing this, are we ensuring the lowest cost increase possible to the low-end consumer? Where it goes to the state, we may not have that control?
That is correct, yes, we are. You know, a number of the other communities that have municipal electric systems are doing a flat rate. Just because it's easier to do a flat rate, we designed a spreadsheet where we can take it down to the residential side, so we know that the dime is actually an actual apartment that we have in the community that would be charged a dime.
So we know we can do a better job for our consumers than they could.
Correct.
Councilman Saul.
Thank you, Mayor. Dave, I know you said this 2 weeks ago, but just to reiterate, if the state wasn't forcing our hand, would we be pursuing this?
We have voluntarily done some of this, but not at this level. We typically will see about 0.5% a year with the Efficiency Smart program that we're part of, and that they come and work with our customers, whether they're residential, commercial, or industrial, and help them voluntarily improve their energy efficiency. This takes it to the next level where, you know, the state is forcing us to make those energy efficiency savings.
Councilman Melling.
I'm sorry, just to follow up, just to be more specific, would we be pursuing something where we were charging our customers for the service?
No.
Suchel, if I understood him correctly, I'm not, I don't think the case would be that there's a sort of Damocles over our head that if we don't vote for this one, some automatic imposition from the state is just gonna happen. They will slap our hands and say, do better, or whatever. I'm of the opinion, or I've heard, I wasn't around or paying much attention, but it seems to me, I've heard, and I like to believe that during COVID, with the leadership of Mayor Stockford and the city manager, some of our neighboring municipalities may have taken our lead. So I'm not trying to overthrow the state and their mandates. I expect if we're out of line, we'll hear about it, and then maybe we'll implement this. So that's just where my mind is.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may. So this, at this level, we're talking probably about 50 entities in the state. So at that time, you know, they had a lot more municipalities they were dealing with. Not that means that they kind of overlooked us, but they have only, say, 50 entities that they'd be dealing with, so we would stand out.
Oh, I see. Because we're a municipality that owns our own power?
That's
I
right.
see.
So
Okay.
it's a very small number compared to the number of municipalities.
It was a stretch of an analogy anyway, but I just thought it's.
Yeah, that's okay, but I would say this, they have asked for comments, and I would say that one of our BP board members did vote no on it for the same principle that many of you have expressed. I would just say, you know, if it does pass, or it doesn't pass, you know, I will share those comments that I've heard here from the council, and, you know, we'll share them with our state rep and our other folks, and tell them, you know, we hope that they, you know, rescind this or look at changing it drastically to make it voluntary.
Thank you.
Councilman
The
Morrissey.
COVID thing, that was an executive order from the governor,
That is correct.
and this is not.
This is not.
So this has a different legal status than the executive order.
Very good question, but yes.
But again, last time we characterized it not as a law, but some kind of a mandate that it was kind of on the fly. Is that fair to say?
This is a law.
It is a law. Well, it was a law, but without punitive arrangements. Is that right?
It's not the law in the philosophical sense.
Thank you.
A law is no law if it doesn't have force. Oh shit, no, I forgot what I was gonna say. Have there been any prosecutions under, what's the name of this law, the Renewable Energy and Energy Waste Reduction Act?
This is the first filing.
There hasn't been
So
one.
there have not.
For any of the different categories of mandates, the renewable energy mandate, none of those have hit.
I do not know of any, but I'd have to look.
So have we seen the power companies start to file lawsuits against these things yet, or will that not come until the filings are required?
That probably wouldn't come into the filings are required.
Okay. And you said, what are our partners, AMP, and what's the other one?
The Michigan Municipal Electric Association, MEA.
They're both lobbying against this,
Yes.
and have we written something to our legislators, you know, with city letterhead, with AMP letterhead, with all that?
Our MEA lobbyist is actively talking and working to them because it is under discussion.
Okay. Oh, I feel like I might vote yes because you've made this as good as it can be, but I get Councilman Dunley's point that it might be good to stand our ground until the next election, see what happens.
I mean, his work is still on the table. We're just tabling it, kind of, to vote no, in my mind.
Councilman Flynn?
I think, and I kind of agree with the Mayor Pro Tem, that Dave and his staff order to get this down to the least amount as possible, I'm just nervous that there's the chance that we could be the exception made, that if we say no, and like Councilman Bentley says, just wait and see what happens, they're not gonna find us. Well, they may just say, at Hillsdale, we'll show them, and we'll make an example. And then all of a sudden, the fine, or whatever they come against us, is a lot more than that $351,000, or whatever we're gonna raise. And I'd hate for us to be, the example. So I think maybe just raising it this little bit like we are, and then if it does get changed in legislature, then we can refund whatever we made back to the customers. Am I close, Dave, or am I just wanna make sure I didn't say something.
I'm not sure how we would do a refund at this particular moment, but I do know they're discussing it now at the legislature. So it might be something that occurs relatively quickly, hopefully. We discuss it on a monthly basis at our MSCPA meetings. But it is also something that, the council could decide to cancel it. If we did it for this year and there's no end in sight, that, council could decide at a later date that we need to cancel it as well.
Councilman Wolfen.
It seems to me that they've done a very good job at presenting a way of pricing that may be good enough just to do on our own. Even if we weren't being asked to do this, it seems to me that the BPU, David Mackey, has done a fine job here just looking through this, and enables it so low-income people have a lower rate. And like I said, it seems to me that whether this is required or not by the state, that I think that we ought to go ahead and do it, because I think it's a very nice job of having the lower income people being able to have a lower price for their electricity, and the higher income people and the manufacturers, et cetera.
Councilman Bentley.
Yes, I think we all agree that Mr. Mackey and the staff have minimized the pain, distributed it seemingly quite fairly. But it's still a boondoggle in the sense that we're collecting $351,000 to churn around and pretend we're saving the planet, and I think it's a farce. So.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you. I don't know if we've got our attorney's opinion. Okay, so the Republicans control the House, Democrats control the Senate, so there's no chance this legislation is strengthened over the next year to include the possibility of fines, right? At least prescribed under statute. What do you have an opinion on whether there's a possibility that there's a general civil lawsuit for not obeying the law if the statute doesn't prescribe fines, penalties?
So actually, while you were talking, I looked up the enforcement section, which is basically to have a civil action against the municipally owned electric utility. What the section says is section 99 of the Clean and Renewable Energy and Energy Waste Reduction Act, which says the Attorney General or any customer of a municipally owned electric utility or a cooperative electric utility that is member regulated under the Electric Cooperative Member Regulation Act may commence a civil action for injunctive relief against that municipally owned electric utility or cooperative electric utility if the municipally owned electric utility fails to meet the applicable requirements of this subpart or an order issued or a rule promulgated under this subpart. The Attorney General or customer shall commence an action in the circuit court. The Attorney General or customer shall not file an action under this subsection unless the Attorney General or customer has given the municipally owned electric utility at least 60 days written notice of the intent to sue. The basis of the suit and the relief sought within 30 days after the municipally owned receives written notice of the intent to sue the municipally owned electric utility, and the Attorney General or customer shall meet and make a good faith attempt to determine if there is a credible basis for the action. The municipally owned electric utility shall take all reasonable and prudent steps necessary to comply with the applicable requirements of this subpart or an order issued or rule promulgated under this subpart within 90 days after the meeting if there is a credible basis for the action. If the parties do not agree as to whether there is a credible basis for the action, the Attorney General or customer may proceed to file suit. So basically, even if someone, the AG's office or one of the customers of the city wanted to say, hey, you're not in compliance and we want to file a suit, they've got to give you 30 days written notice of that, telling you why and what it is they want to have as the injunctive relief, which presumably would be to have the court order that you comply with the act. And then you have to meet with them at least 60 days, within 60 days of that, to figure out whether you agree that there is a reasonable basis, for them to file an action against you if you don't comply, and then you have another 90 days to comply. So if you were to not adopt a plan, as I read that, then it strikes me that you'll have some time to comply if someone wants to rattle your cage about it.
To emphasize that point, from your knowledge and experience, it seems that the injunctive relief would be policy action, not a monetary penalty.
Yeah, injunctive relief means a court
An
ordering
action.
you to do something, right? It invokes the equitable jurisdiction of the court. It's not a claim for money damages or remedy at law. As a matter of fact, it would be difficult for anyone to determine what those damages would be, right? Unless the legislature came in and just said you're going to get fined X amount based upon some calculation.
Okay, so unless the legislature has a statute that has a schedule of penalties, it will be purely requiring the council to act.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it strikes me that the reason they have all those different time frames and they meet and talk and they have to give you notice is to kind of cajole you to go ahead and comply on your own.
Okay.
Or presumably you might have a plan and they might determine that you're not complying with it in some fashion, right? So someone could say, hey, we're going to sue you because you're not complying with the plan. Here's how we say you're not complying. You can sit down and go, oh, okay, well, we can make this adjustment or that adjustment to comply. And then you'd have an agreement that you could enter into along those lines. So it strikes me that that's kind of what that's designed to do, is to get you to kindly comply as opposed to, bring the hammer down.
Okay, and presumably if the AG's office changed hand, they wouldn't be filing these suits. Okay, based on that, I think it's very unlikely that
Well, just remember, it's the AG's office or a customer.
Right.
So you could get a customer who could do the same thing.
That would, and there probably are organizations that are looking for activist suits, right?
There could be people in your own community who would love
Right.
the opportunity to sue the BPU.
For sure. Okay, based on that, the House obviously is not going to strengthen this law over the next year, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Senate. I think that clarifies it for me. Maybe just BPU maybe pursues the energy efficiency SMART program a little more vigorously. I don't know if you have the funds to do that, sort of on an informal basis in preparation if this takes full effect. But yeah, I think in the meantime that answers the question for me. Thank you very much.
Any more cause of discussion? Seeing none, may I entertain a motion to approve BPU's EWR plan and submittal to the state of Michigan?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Flynn, second by Councilman Wolfram. Any more council discussion? Councilman Salah.
I just want to say, if Mayor Pro Tem hadn't asked our attorney
vote, City Clerk Price.
Yes. Councilperson Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
No.
Soha.
No.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley
No.
and Bruns.
No.
5-4, that passes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we move into old business, Kiefer House Hotel LLC, Oprah Resolution Amendment. Assistant Manager, Sam Fry, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions and Council. So last week, CL Real Estate did contact the city to request that this item be put back on the agenda. The new completion date request as they continue to make progress on their project there at the Kiefer House Hotel. You have in your packet, they are proposing a new completion date of June 30, 2026. With this request, Council has a couple of courses of action. There is a resolution in there that would allow Council to go ahead and amend the completion date in the application to June 30th, which would provide them some additional time to complete the rehab process. There's also the option to just keep the date as is, December 31st, not make any adjustments. And then lastly, Council can direct staff to go ahead and pursue a resolution for revocation of the certificate. Those are the three options at this point. We do have the applicant, Brantis, here to represent them, and I'm sure answer some questions. Are there any specific questions about the Oprah amendment for me? If not, I can turn it over to Brant for a project update.
Any questions?
Okay.
Seeing none? No. Thank you.
Brant?
Good evening. So just a brief project update. I saw most of you today for a walkthrough. And so where the project stands today, as you guys saw, the third floor is nearing completion for the all the major construction. The third floor is actually completed. They have put all the drywall in the building, the third, second, almost all of it on the first, and the basement is waiting one final approval before they put in the remainder down there. It's about halfway done. They've been working top down, hence the order. On the upper floors, we have the drywall, we have all the in-room inspections completed, we have finished paint down to the primer. Some of the primer had to be on pause for drywall finishing on different floors. Some work had to be redone, so we put a quick pause on that. They're going to get that back up. Flooring is almost complete in all the rooms on the third floor. They are preparing on the second floor for flooring. The lobby is prepared for the tin to go back up. We've redone the storefronts to the hotel. The cold weather has prevented them from finishing painting and doing additional repairs on the front. They're working on coming up with a plan to sort of section each part of it so they can keep it warmer to continue painting and get rid of the primer, paint the stairs, all that stuff on the front side. Let's see, within the building itself, we've also, we're preparing to get the kitchen flooring in the basement, which will allow us to move in the kitchen equipment that we have. First will be the cold storage, so that is coming up soon. On the upper floors, the vanities should be arriving, I think, this week. We have all of the FF&E equipment in storage. All of these items are being called up as we get closer. So right now the vanities are coming. They are preparing the toilets for installation as well. The fire system works. All the power and utilities are on. You guys can feel the heat on the upper floors. We don't have it on the lower floors just to not let it all escape since they're working primarily upstairs, but as they move, they will turn on down throughout the building. Let's see. So we have made substantial progress on the building itself, so that is kind of just the general construction update. Any questions to that?
Questions? Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Have you applied for temporary occupancy yet?
Not yet.
What's your estimation?
It should certainly be in the early part of the first quarter. We're hoping to get it by the end of January. I'm not the construction guy, so unfortunately I can't pin it down, but we are working rapidly to get there. We have committed to overtime work on the weekends, so if you drive by, you'll see crews there on Saturdays and Sundays. If you drive by late at night, most nights, you'll see some level of crew working well into 8 o'clock at night. I was there Friday. There were the flooring guys, there were some of the drywallers, the superintendent was still there. So it's a very, very active site. We've committed to doubling our efforts to get to those dates, to get that TCO.
Councilman Flynn.
I asked you earlier, but could you just reassure us that this will be the last time we see you?
You don't like seeing me?
I would like to see you across the street at the Pub and Grub, you know, just for a social, but.
Well, so to answer your question as best as I can, as I stand here today, the plan is to be done before that date. The hope to never have to come back here. We have continued to double our efforts, continue to work harder. This resolution with the tax abatement, this is not rewriting a new agreement. This is not changing anything except for the rehabilitation window. So we've continued to make progress toward that. And as you saw, we're inching closer and closer to a TCO, which pretty much means no major construction left in the building. As you saw, almost all the walls are closed in, which pretty much closes off the major construction of the building. It's very close to being usable as a finished space. That means it still has prettying up to do. The finishes still have to be finished, but the space is very close to its intended purpose. So I know I'm kind of giving you a long answer, but the Oprah is meant to take an obsolete building and make it a functional building. And the incentive there was granted for the 12-year period, which we're still within, so this is not changing this. It is giving us an opportunity to continue to, unfortunately, take down that time on our end, but fortunate for the council, the 12 years continues to dwindle without receiving the full Oprah benefit on our end. But we continue to work to that rehabilitation completion, and that is where we are. We're very close, as you saw. So the building is no longer, I guess you wouldn't define the building as obsolete today when you walk through it for all of the things that we put into it. I guess that's kind of the short question. So I cannot guarantee, but I can just say where we stand today with the facts on the ground, with the way the building is, I believe we shouldn't be back here.
Okay, Councilman Bentley.
Thank you for the walkthrough. The three things that, I'm no expert, but the three things that concern me most, I would say, are the stairs have not been raised, the elevator is not operable, and we didn't walk through the basement, so those all give me pause. Can you say anything about any of those, please?
Yes, sorry we didn't walk through the basement. I took a few of the others through the basement. I'm happy to take you back through there if you'd like to see it. The elevator is close to final inspection. I was told, I'm not exactly sure the last two pieces. One of them was something with getting our phone line set up in there. I don't know what the other one is, but it's close for inspection. It is finished, except for those things that I can understand. And what was the third one? I'm sorry.
The stairs.
The stairs. So the stairs, it's surprising, as this building is a historic property, it takes a lot of back and forth with the National Park Service for the historic portion, as well as with the architect and the local inspector's office. So all three parties have been working and responding to come up with a solution for that, as Nick had explained previously. The stairs don't have to be raised, the railing just has to be increased in height.
Oh.
And so they've come up with a solution that doesn't interrupt the historic look, while still presents a final finished product that everyone can be happy with. That's what the details were.
Did that change? Because I was sure that I understood that the whole staircase had to go up 4 or 6 or 8 inches.
That's the railing.
Okay.
Just the railing.
Councilman Stouch.
Just a question. I'm not aware of any, but have you taken any quality shortcuts or cut back on your materials, the quality materials for the finish to get done sooner?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Council questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, more council discussion. Okay, seeing none, may I entertain a motion to take either course of action 1 to adopt the proposed resolution, or to take course 2 to decline to adopt the proposed resolution.
I move for number 1.
Support. Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Morrissey, supported by Councilman Stouch Sucho, or Soha. Is there any more council discussion? Yes, Councilman Soha.
Yeah, just to remind council, this isn't what Brent said about the obsolete program. The monies that we'll take in are where they are. I asked the city manager to do numbers if we were to rescind this and the full tax weight would be on them, and the majority or all of the increased funds would go to Tifa, not to the city. So there's no financial benefit to the city coffers, as far as I understand, to rescind this Oprah agreement.
Okay, Councilman Bentley.
If the spry Dr. Morrissey hadn't beat me to it, I would have moved for the second option, specifically because we're not rescinding it. We're just, if I understand correctly, we are just giving ourselves the option to. Is that a fair characterization? So I will be voting no.
Okay, any more council discussion? Yes, Councilman.
Yes, I think it's worth noticing that this building has not been functioning as an actual hotel, which was the purpose of it, since 1969. So the fact that it's been a long time in our terms, from the time the CL Red got it to now, is a drop in the bucket. And the reason, I think the reason is that it failed as a hotel initially was that it was designed in 1885 by the standards of those days, which meant that you could have, people were perfectly happy with 4 rooms and 1 bathroom shared by the 4 rooms. You had guys coming in on the railroad, attorneys using the courthouse. You had traveling sales guys coming in on the railroad going up to the, and that was fine in those days. But post-World War II, with the highway system and motel, the Days Inn is more luxurious than that was. So it's just, now what they've done is to make it a more modernly acceptable hotel. And I think their main money reserve may be the restaurant also. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Councilman Bentley.
Thank you, Dr. Morrissey. I agree. It is and will be a beautiful space, and I look forward with all of Hillsdale. We anxiously await its grand opening.
Okay. More council discussion. Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. Second. We have a roll call vote. City Clerk Price.
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes?
Palladino,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stucho,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Sessions,
No.
Councilperson Bentley,
No.
Bruns,
No.
and Glenn.
Yes.
7 yes, 6 yes, 3 no.
Thank you.
Passes resolution 3660.
Thank you very much. We move into new business, resolution establishing guidelines for poverty exemption from property taxes. Assistant City Manager, Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm taking this item on behalf of Kim tonight. So some of you will recall seeing this. This is something we do every year annually. So in the state of Michigan, folks that are impoverished are allowed to seek exemption from property taxes on their owner-occupied property. So the city of Hillsdale every year has to adopt guidelines to be followed by the Board of Review when they're making that determination of eligibility for a poverty exemption. So this item here has a resolution that Kim prepared, which is the same as the one from last year. It's just updated with the federal poverty guidelines for this year. The only other change in here that she added is for this resolution to just specify that it would update on an annual based on when those federal numbers change, so that it doesn't necessarily have to go back every year. Although council would have the option of, if they wanted to change it, we could certainly consider it. But historically, council has just gone off those federal poverty guidelines. So there's two parts to this. There's both an income and an asset test. Again, it's really unchanged from last year, just numbers updated for cost of living and inflation. I will note that for the 2025 property tax year, the Board of Review, there were 4 people in the city of Hillsdale that sought this exemption. 3 of them were granted, 1 was denied by the Board of Review. Any questions about this item?
Questions? Councilman Flynn?
So just for clarity, if we pass this tonight, we will not get this in front of us again next year?
That's right, yep, with the resolution as is, it will just automatically update to next year's guidelines, unless council wants to see it back and make tweaks, and then you always have that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Belli?
Yeah, I'm not fond of that particular portion. I think it's our responsibility to do this every year. So I would ask that we consider not putting that clause in.
Councilman Sola?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why did you add that provision in? What was the thought process behind it?
Yeah, so Kim put that in there because every year the city council adopts it using the federal poverty guidelines. And so historically, the city council's never done anything different. So it's just, it's been pretty much just a routine, formal approval every year. So in the interest of efficiency and saving time, she thought that that would be something council might like, of course, with the caveat that, it could always come back to council if council felt the need arises to change it.
I agree with Councilman Bentley's point. I think I'm almost certainly going to forget about this, so I'd like to see it each year.
If I haven't seen it each year.
And it's likely we have 3 or 4 new members next year, so.
Any more questions?
I'd move to amend it to remove that provision and bring it before council every year.
Second.
Okay, so I have to take course of amending the resolution to adopt the alternative guidelines. Is that the second one?
Yes, sir, amend the resolution so that it comes before council every year.
Okay, and it was seconded by Councilman Bentley?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any more council discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, this is, be it also resolved on page 59 to State Tax Commission at the end of that page. That's the paragraph we're striking there. Those 2 sentences. Be it also resolved that the Board of Review shall follow, oh no, that's not it. Wait, where was I looking?
I think it's a sentence right below that.
Oh,
Mayor
right
Pro
below
Tem,
that, thank you.
Be adjusted for each tax year.
Yes, okay. Based on the update. So the only other option would be we create our own guidelines, or we use, I assume the state of Michigan has a set too.
So council can create its own guidelines. The stipulation there is that council can't make it harder to qualify than what is allowed by state law, but they can make it easier. So if you wanted to expand the definition of poverty or increase the amount of people who qualify, council can do that.
Okay. Yeah, it would probably be good for the sake of institutional knowledge to keep this coming forward. And for that exact reason, which is that, a family of 4 making $32,000, like that's grinding poverty in some parts of the country. Here, that's like, I don't know, the bottom 20th percentile or something like that, right? So it's a fairly large amount of people, and if that gap between federal poverty and what our citizens are actually experiencing in the city of Hillsdale grows, it would be good, I think, just to remind ourselves of where we're at. And I mean, I'm sure Kim would bring it forward if she thought there was some egregious distance between those 2 limits, but yeah, just for the sake of institutional knowledge, I think that's a good amendment. Thank you.
Council discussion. Councilman Flynn.
Just to be clear then, do we need to vote first on the action to amend before we actually vote on the resolution, correct? Right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, any more council discussion? Okay, can I have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price on the amending the resolution.
Sorry. Councilperson Palladino.
Yes.
Councilperson Sola.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
And Morrissey.
Yes.
That's approved, 9-0.
I move to adopt the amended resolution.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Soha,
Second.
supported by Councilman Flynn to amend the adopted resolution, or approve the amended resolution. Okay, any more council discussion? Seeing none, we have a roll call vote. City Clerk Price.
Councilperson Soha.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
And Palladino.
Yes.
It is 9-0 approved. Resolution 3661.
All right. Okay, we're going to new business, Hillsdale Substation new pole location change order, City Manager Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is with Kent Power. So the BPU is in the midst of a project to update and rebuild a industrial park substation with additional breakers and transformers, so we can actually feed our system from both the power plant as well as the industrial park for reliability. In working on the project, it was determined that additional space isn't necessary, but in the guise of safety for the staff, would be better serve this project, and so the change order for $354,000 is to extend the lines that are coming out of that substation out further, so they can actually get their equipment in and work the lines. And the lines are probably 2 to 3 inch copper, so that's primarily what the cost is. We are putting these lines in conduit underground, and they're of substantial size, and that copper is very expensive right now. That's why this change order is so large. And that being said, what you have in the packet behind that is basically the details of that change order. The gentleman who is on staff that's kind of coordinating this is both a journeyman lineman for the city. He's one of our line lead, as well as a journeyman electrician. So he has been in the electrical business for quite a while. And this, the system prior to the change order, you would be working probably 10 feet away from some major high voltage. And in his opinion, we want to get our guys further away from it than what we currently have designed. So this will help with the efficiency of that industrial substation by spreading those lines out, as well as getting our guys away from the primary point where there could be an article explosion that could harm them.
Any questions? City Manager Mackey?
I would say one last thing, Mayor, that the electric committee from the BPU went through this pretty extensively, and the board is recommending on those two prime reasons of safety and efficiency of the system. Keep in mind, this system is something that we will probably have 50 to 100 years still working in the community. So So they have it's a BPU board is 5 members. They have 2 members that are on the electric committee, who are both engineers themselves. And so they reviewed it, and then it went to the full board for discussion. And they unanimously or recommended its approval to this council.
More questions? Seeing none, may I entertain a motion then to approve the substation change and the approval of the amount of $372,327.
So moved.
Support. Support. Okay. All right, I have a motion by Councilman Morrissey, supported by Councilman Soha. Any more council discussion?
Just clarify the number again.
372,
327.
327. Yes.
Thank you.
Any more council discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I have a roll call vote, City Clerk Price.
Yes, Councilperson Stutchel.
Yes.
Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
Yes.
And Soha.
Yes.
It's 9-0 approved.
All right, thank you. We move into new
Can I
business.
have a comment here?
Yes, Councilman.
I was reminded of Len Campbell's on alignment for the county when he mentioned that one of you was alignment. So just reminding people.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we'll move into new business. Item C, Dial-A-Ride Annual Funding Resolution. And this will be DPS Director, Mr. Jason Blake.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
As part of an annual application that the city prepares and submits to MDOT, a resolution of intent is required. In that resolution, it outlines a budget of $411,467. This budget is similar, but not necessarily identical to the budget that we prepare and approve in June. As it does cover a different budget year of October 1, 26 through September 30th, 27. It's anticipated we'll receive 18% of operations costs from the federal, 33.1804% from the state, and the remaining 48.8196% will come from local sources. This resolution also appoints Jason Blake, the Public Service Director, as the Transportation Coordinator. The 33.1804% is an increase of from last year, 30.5895. So this year it is a total state improvement of 2.5909% for approximately $10,000.
Any council questions? Councilman Flynn.
Jason, just curious, if this doesn't kick off until the state's fiscal year of October 1st of next year, why do we need to approve it 9-10 months in advance?
Yeah, the deadline is February 1st for the following year's application. It's always about a year, 3 months early.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, more council questions? Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. So our proposed transfer from the general fund was $112,623, it looks like, is that correct? So we're about 30,000 above that,
Correct.
but the state's portion went up.
Correct. So what that was is the general fund contribution last year was over 112 because we anticipated bringing in revenue from the.
The ads.
Thank you, ads.
Yeah, whatever happened with that? No bites?
That was single one. Dial-A-Ride, myself and Mr. Fry, we spent a lot of time, and David helped us on it as well. We got no flights. We changed it a couple times too, so you could pay in blocks instead of all at once and so forth, and not get single bite.
Well, thank you for your work on that. Yeah, I think when we adopted the rate hike, we said because it was sort of a delayed rate hike that accounted for so many years, we were gonna wait. But just to keep it on your radar, a future council is gonna need to make sure that they raise that, 25 cents in the next probably 3 or 4 years, because we're still below where we were at in 23-24. We were at 150.
Correct.
But I remember it was just running those numbers, that you really don't wanna let it get too much more than that, in future years. So, yeah, I guess keep us updated on how much, whether that 140 something,
Correct.
holds stable. And if not, we probably need to consider another fair increase in the coming years.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay. May I entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved. Support.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Morrissey, support by Councilman Flynn. Any more council discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I have a roll call vote? City Clerk Price?
Yes, Councilperson Wolfram.
Yes.
Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
Yes.
Soha.
Yes.
And Studo.
Yes.
It's 9-0 approved, resolution 3662.
Now we move into new business, proposal special assessment district, 2026-1, rescinding resolution 3659, and this will go to Assistant City Manager, Mr. Fry.
Thank you very much, and I also have Jason up here with me. So, for a little bit of background, you will remember that we had come to council seeking direction to do the plans for Arch Avenue. We had received a federal appropriation of $425,000 to do Arch Avenue. We presented those plan specifications and drawings at our last council meeting on December 1st. Well, on December 3rd, we found out that we did obtain another grant through the State Department of Transportation for a reconstruction project on Industrial Drive. So this is another grant that we had applied for back during the summer. Just found out that we received it 2 days after the meeting, which is good news because it's $375,000 that will help stretch our funding. So what we'd like to do is pursue a combined project where we look at pairing the reconstruction of Arch with work on Industrial to resurface that, as well as Proctor Drive, which is just a small little cul-de-sac, dead-end cul-de-sac that comes off Industrial. The goal in doing it as a combined project would be to layer that grant funding and also to obtain lower unit cost pricing when it comes to mobilization, traffic control, other elements of the project, materials even, with the hopes that there might be one contractor that will come back and be willing to do that. The other effect of trying to do it as a combined project is, with it encompassing more mileage and more area, we can have a special assessment district where the grant funding is part of the project, but it's not necessarily like those industrial properties are getting an 80-90% reduction on the work. So we think it is more equitable. It's an approach that leverages the funds we have, but also doesn't create that kind of situation where they're getting a uniquely good deal per se compared to the other projects. So we think this is a more fair proposal, and it allows us to do more work at a lower cost.
Are there any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. Could you expand on that? So are they combining these two grants for the full scope of the project?
No, so the grants wouldn't be combined. The idea is that we would do this as like a phased project. So Arch would be phase 1, Industrial and Proctor Drive would be phase 2, but it would be part of one special assessment district that would combine and encompass all the area.
And that's
not dissimilar to, like, say, the Westwood project,
right,
or another area where we're doing multiple streets in the same neighborhood.
Now, can that congressional earmark, though, can it be spread across both projects, or does that earmark have to stay on Arch Street?
So that earmark itself will be for work on Arch Street, but it's just when you look at the total project cost as a whole, splitting it up so you have the two grants going into it, that will, I think, allow us to achieve roughly about 50% of the project being funded by grants, with the other 50 to be assessed. So it's a better split than it was before, with just Arch.
Okay, but it sounds like then the industrial drive parcels are going to be sort of, the Arch Drive parcels are now going to be paying for the industrial drive? Is that the?
So no, Jason, I think you can add some color here, but can you explain a little bit about the phase project and kind of what the goal is there with combining these?
Absolutely. So the goal on it is, again, it's just unit pricing down. So Arch Ave and industrial are two different grants. Industrial will go to stay in industrial, Arch will stay in Arch. The assessment is up to 50%, so up to 50% will be assessed to their parcels. By including both of them or all three of them on there, it's kind of more fair to get the special assessment toward. Because remember before, only like 70,000 was going to be specially assessed to Arch Ave.
Right.
Now spreading that around, it actually will be able to be per policy up to 50%.
Is Arch getting more though, based on this new project, or the total project cost is growing and it's a larger district now to bear the cost of those?
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilman Bentley.
I don't remember the number, but when it was just Arch by itself, there was the 425, and then there was gonna be some leftover split between special assessments and the city. And,
That's roughly 580.
oh, it was 580.
Roughly, or was it 580 or 680?
I thought it was like 480.
I think it was 480, so there's about 40,000
Oh,
left.
okay.
So
this new part?
yes, so by adding industrial and Proctor Drive, the total combined project comes out to be about 1.2 million. So the project's
Which
gonna go
about 800 comes from other sources.
You got about 375,000 for the grant for industrial drive, and then about 440. So altogether, you're looking at right around the $800,000 range, give or take, of that being specially assessed, or coming from grants. Excuse me, with the remainder to be specially assessed.
The remainder being about 400.
Yeah, to get to that 1.2.
So that would be half the city and half special assessments.
No, well, the city's current policy is that up to 50% of the cost would be specially assessed to those parcels. So under the current policy, whatever is remaining, that 40 some odd percent, would be specially assessed to the parcels.
I won't hold you to this, but is it roughly gonna be 15,000 per parcel? Are we in that territory for all of them on Arch and industrial?
Yeah, so the project is still being designed. So the reason that we're coming to you tonight is to basically get council's authorization to do the plans for the combined project, get that cost estimate, and then that'll allow us to show how it is spread over the parcels. Until we get final costs, we have an approximation that 1.2 million is roughly in the ballpark of what we're talking about. But until we define the district and know how many parcels it's going to be split up over, and get. Yeah, so we don't know right now whether or not it's going to be under or over the caps.
I guess let me ask like this, is there any downside to this?
City manager, Mac.
So by combining the two districts, we were able to forego the potential problem we had with our policy. So this allows us to actually fall within our policy by combining the two projects. And we're just combining the special assessment side of them as one. That was a discussion we were looking at after we received this grant notification. We saw it as, an opportunity to not have that issue, not to have that be an issue.
No, it sounds good. So the answer to my question is there's no real downside to this.
No.
It's the elusive win-win. So, good enough.
And Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. Yeah, this is quite clever. I'm slightly worried that it's too clever. But what I'm going to have to say now is that now we have a reason to change the policy, which is that if the grant is covering what would effectively be the city's portion, the 50% cap no longer quite make sense. So now I think we have a reason to amend the policy for grants, whereas I don't know that we did before. Because how many parcels are there again? 30 something?
Yeah, I think there's 16 on Arch, I can't remember how much industrial.
Did it say in here? I don't think it said in the.
Oh, yeah, it
This is
doesn't
just
have the
plain-
exact number in there, yeah.
It doesn't have the, okay, let's say.
That'll
there
have
are-
to be defined as we establish the
Oh,
boundaries.
right, okay, let's say there are 30, we're talking about 200,000-ish. Right, 50% of the 400,000 divided by 30. So, yeah, we'll probably be around the 5,000 to 8,000 range each. So the policy will not have its intended effect under its current form.
So I would say too, I mean, with the amount of grants that are gonna be coming to the table for this, these grants in a whole, like our grant B that we used to get for press, we can't get those no more, there's not appropriated anymore for that funding. So these are kind of a rare thing.
Yeah, I mean, after getting this TEDF grant, you know, we're certainly not gonna get another one for a number of cycles. Category B, as Jason mentioned, was eliminated, you know, due to not, you know, funds not being appropriated for that. We're certainly not gonna get another congressional appropriation for a long time. But the other reason it makes sense is because these projects are in the same geographic area. And so that's where, you know, you can also save on the labor costs and having one contractor that's out there, you know, doing one road and then ideally doing the other road, you know, not having to remobilize and do all that work in one area. You know, that's gonna help lower the cost across the board when you can save on that, right? And that's true of any project. Anytime you can save on mobilization, on your unit cost pricing, it does help try to, you know, drive the cost down so we can be as efficient as possible.
Mobilization is anywhere between 10 and 15%.
Okay, Councilman Saul.
Just for clarity, for my sake, the approximately $400,000 that the grants do not cover, are those all covered by SADS, or is that a 50-50 split?
50, yeah.
So, no, so the 400,000 that the grants don't cover would all be assessed.
Oh.
The 50-50 split is that if the city has grants, it covers the city's portion. Anything over that 50% by current policy gets assessed. That's what the current policy says.
So there will be nothing out of our road fund or general fund potentially required to.
I would say we have to get a little further in the process to know, because that, it's not necessary that they're all gonna be assessed 15,000, you know, the max. Because there are caps and the percentage involved. So the next time we come back, we'll actually have information, more detailed information that we can share. But yes, in this scenario, there will be more left in our road fund because we're getting the two grants that we're stacking together that we can use for the next project.
So I think some of us heard you, when you said the 400,000 would be assessed, we heard it as the 50-50 split. You're talking the whole thing might be.
So council's current policy that was adopted in February this year, if you read the policy, it says that there is, you know, 50-50 cost split, and if the city obtains any grants, it goes to cover the city's 50% portion. So the remaining 50% would be assessed to the properties benefiting from it.
That didn't apply to Arch because it was congressional, but this is not.
It would have applied to Arch, but that would have created the situation where, you know, 80% or so would be covered by a grant with only 20% left to be assessed. So it wouldn't, you know, be a 50-50 split or anywhere near it. That was one of the points that was brought up at the last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, all right, any more council discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Bentley, supported by Councilman Morrissey. Any more council discussion? Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Pellegrini?
Sorry, Councilman Flynn, are we looking to rescind right now then?
That was gonna be my question.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we have to move to rescind, approve the rescind.
So there are three parts to this. It's rescinding the resolution of necessity that was adopted just for Arch last time. canceling the public hearing for January 5th, and then directing staff to do the plans, costs, and specifications for this combined project with Arch Industrial and Proctor, that we would then bring those plans back to council, set a new public hearing, and move forward.
But all these can be in one continuous.
Yeah, give me a motion to do all 3 items on there. That's right.
Okay. Yep, okay. So I have a motion by Councilman Bentley, supported by Councilman Morrissey, to approve or take all the following actions in the recommendation. Is there any more council discussion? Seeing none, we have a roll call vote. City Clerk Price.
Yes, Mayor Sessions.
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Palladino.
Yes.
Soha.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
And Wolfram.
Yes.
9-0 approved, resolution 3663.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll, okay, all right. Now we move into special assessment district discussion. City Manager Mackey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So this item was placed on the agenda because I did receive after the December 8th special council whole meeting request by Councilman Bruns to put this on the agenda for discussion because there seemed to be more questions and discussion to be had. So that being said, we did do some footwork on this just to hopefully make things easier for council and the public to follow. So you have this flow chart in front of you, and then actually our current policy is behind it. I'm gonna ask Sam to come up and do a quick walkthrough before council starts their discussion, because I think this will be beneficial for all the council and the public to kind of understand. The charter guides a lot of this, and so this flow chart I think will be easy for everyone to understand. Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mackey. So, as Dave mentioned, we're not going to take up too much time here, so we'll let council have the discussion. But we did want to prepare this because there were some questions about the current process and specifically, citizen input. And so we wanted to make it a little bit easier to understand how the charter, as well as our ordinances and then the policies that council has adopted, all kind of play into each other to outline what the actual special assessment process looks like. So just really quickly at the top of that flow chart, so there are 2 ways that public improvement projects are initiated. So property owners can go ahead and they can petition council for a project, or council initiates the special assessment district project. So, working with staff, they'll identify roads that are high priorities to be redone, and then we go to council with a recommendation, and then council directs us to go ahead and initiate that special assessment district process. So step 2 is, once we get permission from council to go ahead and do the project designs, then we work on the plan specifications and cost estimates for those projects, and then bring it back to council. Step 3 is where council decides whether those public improvements shall be made, and so there's a resolution here where you determine, the necessity of those improvements. So this is where the whole or any part of the cost assessed is determined, what if any part shall be appropriated from general funds, the district lands or premises upon which the assessment shall be levied, so the project boundaries. So until we get to the step 3, we have a concept of a project, but we don't have a defined special assessment district, right? And so this is where I think some of the confusion comes in, because, we'll have residents that will, maybe attend council meetings and they'll hear that, council has asked us to look at planning a project, but we don't even know until we get to step 3, council hasn't even determined what the actual project district boundaries are. And so that's when that gets determined, as well as setting a date and a time for a public hearing to hear any objections to whether the public improvements are made. Step number 4 is we do hold that public hearing. There is a notice that gets published, and this is where all the property owners in a proposed special assessment district are given an opportunity to learn that it's being proposed, to find out that it's happening, to go ahead and attend council to either reject or lend their support for it. Per charter, if there are more than 50% that object in writing, then the approval of the project does take 7 affirmative votes to proceed. So you see the little decision tree there immediately at the bottom. If that happens and there are more than 50% objections, there are fewer than 7 affirmative votes, charter says the public improvement shall not be made. If it gets approved by council, that's council authorizing the public improvements in the project to go ahead. And then step 5 is where council decides how that cost is going to be assessed. And so this is where they direct the city assessor to prepare the roll. The resolution includes, again, the percentage that's assessed. So right now, it references resolution 3625, which is stapled to the next page. That's how we get that 50% cost split that I mentioned. It determines the method of allocation, so the recent adjustments that we made to allocate the cost based on frontage of a lot, as well as a number of annual installments. So again, there are limits there placed by charter, and then we also have what that resolution provides for, and then the interest rate on the deferred balance. And so the assessor, as directed by council, goes ahead and prepares that roll in this step. Council receives that roll and then sets a date and time for a public hearing. So at this point, there's a second public hearing. That public hearing is on the approval of the special assessment roll that has been prepared. So again, notices are sent out once more to property owners along with the amounts of the assessment, as well as a table showing the anticipated annual installments. And then council and the assessor reviews the roll and hears any objections to that specific assessment amount that was provided to each property owner if they object to it. So at that point, there's a number of actions council can take to either confirm the roll, confirm it with some alterations or corrections, refer it back to the city assessor for revision, or to annul the roll that's been prepared and have her re-prepare it with different instructions provided. At which point you have to schedule another hearing and notice. And then if the roll gets approved, that's when there is the resolution to actually confirm the special assessment roll. It's recorded with the county register of deeds, and then that lien is recorded against the property. So again, just to recap, specifically when you have people that are in support or against a project, I think the reason there's been some confusion is because somewhere between step 1 and step 2 is when some of those people have been objecting when there isn't a project that's been defined, there isn't district boundaries that have been established, the costs of the project haven't been determined. And so there is that opportunity for folks to voice their support or not. That just happens a little bit kind of further down the flow chart, so to speak. So we just wanted to prepare this again because I know it can be a little bit confusing because you have provisions in the charter, you have separate ordinance provisions, as well as a policy. So whenever you're trying to pull information from 3 different documents as far as how it operates, we thought that putting it here, at least in a flowchart format, would provide a little bit more clarity for council's discussion, as well as just for the general public to understand how the process works.
It's Councilman Bentley.
Specifically for Oak and South, where January 5th was something, but that's not the public hearing. So where are we in step 3 and 4?
So that's a great question. So with Oak and South, council has done step 1, which is council has initiated those projects. They've asked staff to go ahead and prepare the plans, costs, and specifications. We are currently in that step 2, that project design phase for Oak and South. That's where we're at. So on January 5th, when we come back to council with the plans, costs, and estimates, that's when we'll be basically entering that step 3 phase. And that's where council will determine should those projects get done, right? Should the improvements that we've proposed take place or not, along with some other items, including if there's a discussion about the district boundaries. Maybe we have a certain stretch of road that we envision doing, but somebody says, what about doing 100 feet more, 100 feet less, right? That's when those other things can be decided as part of there. So, and I think in the future, if it benefits council, we're certainly not opposed to including this with the different special assessment districts items, specifically highlighting like where we're at in the process, just to make it easier for people to say, okay, we're on step 2, this is what comes next.
And then the public hearing, step 4 would be the second meeting in January. Is that what we're thinking?
Well, it depends on whether council, once they receive the plans, you have the ability to either say, yes, those improvements are necessary, we do determine they should be made, and then you can set a date and time for a public hearing. So if council's ready and prepared to do that, they could act on it quickly, or they could provide additional time.
Well, I'm
Depending
just,
on if there's agreement or not, just generally with the project as presented.
well, I'm speculating that we want, everybody wants Oak Street and South Street done, so I imagine January 5th will be a success, and then we'll set it for presumably the next meeting in January.
It could be the second meeting in January or the first meeting in February, depending on how all that shakes out. I do know that one thing I did want to mention that, in regards to Councilman Brunn's email to me, he wanted to discuss, at what point, we actually notify the residents that we're looking at the project and try to get their input on the front end. Maybe you could explain your.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, thank you for putting the chart together, it's helpful. The underlined sentence on step 4, is that a result of our policy or the charter?
That is by charter.
Okay. Okay, so that, what I was thinking is that it would be much easier to get public buy-in if it was such that if written affirmations of the project exceed 50%. That way, we're not putting the citizens of these districts in the position of having to act in the affirmative in favor of the project, but rather they have to show that they're buying in themselves by taking the initiative, rather than us deciding for them. But presumably, if that's by charter, it's much harder to deal with.
It is by charter, Councilman, that it goes the other direction.
Okay.
Councilman Flynn?
With all of that said, I think a determination needs to be made with the help of legal counsel. We've talked about this, I think, at the last meeting, so that we don't have another mess like we did on Berry Street with Mr. Pallel going above and beyond the call of duty, that we need to determine what the written objection is. Because if I remember correctly, when we did the written objections for Berry, they came to us with a signed petition. That didn't work. Then they came back to us with something else. That didn't work. And they came to us with like 17 or 18 letters, all signed separately. So I think we just need to determine before, we get to step 4, because I understand that there are going to be those out there on Oak and on South Street that are going to be against this. What is our policy? We need to determine this is what you can do so that the people know, so that they aren't back and forth and back and forth.
City Manager Mackey.
So, Councilman Flynn, so as Sam was trying to explain, so what happened with that particular project is typically in the previous projects to that one, we got to phase or step 4, and that's when the folks came out to either object or submitted a letter in writing.
Right.
Now, the way the charter is written, it is in the negative, so you have to, if you're against it, you have to submit a letter. And so it's 51% against. So what had happened in the Berry Street is they started submitting objections and at step 2, and as Sam had indicated,
Right.
we didn't have an official project yet. So in some case, to some degree, I don't think the staff was basically, that's what we had alluded to them, or Mr. Khalil was, we don't have a project,
Right.
and that this was premature.
I understand all that.
But so, I guess by charter, you're supposed to get that in step 4.
Right, but I guess I understand that not until step 4, because you're right. If there's no project to, oppose, there's no project to oppose. My question is, do we need to set and say, when we get to step 4, a petition, we the undersigned, 51% counts, or does it have to be as it's
I've
stated?
answered that before. If it is a written objection, it doesn't matter what format it's in. It could be an email to you, because that would be considered in writing. They have their name on it under Michigan law.
Right.
It could be a petition where it says at the top, we the undersigned object to, right? Every name on that then would be an objection. As
Just
long
trying,
as it's in writing and it says something to the effect that they object to the special assessment.
okay, just wanted to clear that up so that the people who are going to object aren't, doing one thing and then they're told, well, you have to do it the other way and they gotta start all over again. So,
And just to be clear, Councilman, each time in that process, we have all those documents, we can keep them all in
Right.
a file, the clerk does. And we have had them and have them, to present to council. It was just, maybe there was some confusion on behalf of the staff as well, just because of this flow chart and how things occurred. Whether we get them by email, they go in the file, whether we get a petition, whether we get a letter, it all goes in that particular file.
And I think the gray area that Dave was alluding to is, I get a petition before there's any actual action by council to do anything toward creating a special assessment district, even approving the project or anything like that to go ahead with it. That does create an issue because it's not addressed in the charter. And are you really objecting to that special assessment as it's been presented and to move forward? Or you're just generally objecting to having a special assessment at all? And those are kind of two different things.
Right.
So the question then becomes, okay, I got a petition, I got a bunch of people that signed it, and now I want to give it to you at the time that the project has been approved, but everybody signed it before there was a project. Is that an objection to this project? It's an interesting question. I would suggest that they go and have, whoever signed the petition, reaffirm it by adding a new date or something like that. You wouldn't even necessarily have to sign it just to get their approval in some fashion that their objection still stands. But that is one of the tough areas, is if you had that specific kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
I can add to that. I know some of the confusion in that particular project was, they were objecting at the $5,000 mark, but we knew that because of the change in policy, that some of them were smaller lots and they were gonna be, I know there were a couple or a few that were 2,800, and they were objections. And the question was, well, were they objecting when they thought it was 5,000, or we didn't have that calculation done yet when they objected. So that was one example.
Mayor Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. Yeah, okay, so I was thinking, well, we could just change it so that any objection is on file at all times, but this Arch Industrial project shows the problem with that. You can change the geography of the special assessment district so that if 50% of Arch objected, well, actually it turns out it's an Arch and industrial project, and maybe no one in industrial objects. Is that the problem? That the scope could expand? But it does seem, on the other hand, that there are sort of natural interest areas, like Berry Street is one contiguous project, but there's nothing necessarily that's preventing that from also being a Manning and South Street project all in one. So there's no way to really have an objection based on a single street. And then this would get, of course, even more complicated if you had a street like Manning or Bacon that's very large. So yeah, I don't know if there's a way to just sort of have it on file that they don't want this, even if it's 3 years down the line, like Reading has objected. Because we might, would it be possible that we then expand the Reading project to include Armstrong or Frisbee? Is that the concern?
Well, there's the flip side of that though, which is that the district is less than a street, or it becomes less because there are objections on a portion of the street. And the other problem you have is because the way it's worded in the charter, you were dealing with a proposal to specially assess certain specific pieces of property that are part of this district. I think you'd be on pretty thin legal ice if you're saying, we're gonna take an exception that an objection that you filed 3 years ago, and we're gonna treat that as though, without receiving anything new from you, once we've adopted this, proposed district, and determine which lots are gonna be included in it, or which properties are included, that's gonna be your objection. because you don't have any specifics, you don't know how much it's gonna be, you don't know what it is they're gonna do, are they gonna put in drainage, or are they gonna put in other things? So I think it would be probably bad from a policy perspective in terms of making sure you don't have challenges later on to districts. It can come from people that wanna get it done, or from people that oppose it. If you did that, I think you're better off to do what I think the city's traditionally done, which is, I mean, once it's down the track on this decision tree, then at some point after that, you need to submit your objections.
Right, and we'd have to make all of those practical decisions. How long do the objections stay on file? Do they stay on file as long as the property owner's there? Has the property owner's financial situation changed? Okay. My next thought, though, is, as far as I understand the charter, it's an empowering document for the most part, but that doesn't always necessarily require that we enact that power through ordinance. So, two possibilities: we could either, by ordinance, remove council initiating projects and allow them all to be proper owner initiated. That might be a little bit too drastic, because there might be situations in which a special assessment district is sort of like a safety, or
There's state statute though that also applies. So the ability to petition for an improvement and have it treated as a special assessment district is also afforded by statute.
Right.
So our charter has a procedure for it, but in the absence of a charter provision, there's a state statute that still allows that to be done, and still allows the city to assess it.
But if we repealed the ordinance that allows the council to initiate projects, that would not be a violation of the charter, because the charter simply empowers the council to initiate projects. Okay, that might be too complex. The second suggestion which comes to mind, which is easier, is by policy we could just say, we will allow property owner initiated projects except in such and such circumstances, or in all circumstances. And we don't change.
You can restrict the right of the people to petition for the improvement.
Not the right of the people, the right of the council to initiate it.
I would have to do a little bit more looking on whether or not you can do that, because remember, there are certain responsibilities you have as a council under the Home Rule Cities Act. And there are certain things that are mandatory charter provisions. I don't know that that's one of them, but I also don't know that you can just give up your ability to do certain things, because remember, the people of the city might need you to take that kind of action in certain circumstances, and then you hamstring every council after it. They have to go and adopt or repeal all or a portion of some ordinance that you did that restricted the council's authority or its ability to do something that it has the ability to do under law.
Yeah, no, I immediately see the problem with that. So the third option then would be, by policy, so we don't bind future councils, we could say, we want property owner initiated SAD districts, let's say for residential areas or something like that.
Well,
with
sure,
no
I mean,
change.
that's your prerogative as
Right.
a council
Okay.
to instruct the city manager and the city staff to do that sort of thing, right? So then you have a consensus of the council as to how you want to approach something. It doesn't necessarily have to be a written or adopted policy, but that can be the instruction that you give, which the council is free to change from time to time without having to repeal anything or amend anything or anything like that. And it's the same thing as projects come up. You decide, you know, as a council, you don't want to approve it.
Okay.
Because it was initiated by the city and not by the citizens.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful. I wonder then if there's a middle ground, because we have the petition, the citizen petition possibility, but I wonder if there is a possibility of sending the project specifics to the residents of an area and say, sign yes, sign no, without the council actually taking the step of approving the project yet.
City Manager.
That one, we'll have to talk,
Very
think about,
complex.
but I somewhat wonder if, yeah, Sam, you can come up, but I wonder, and I'm just thinking out loud, if you could restrict and say, local streets, we want those to be resident initiated versus like majors where council has a little more control. We have to look into that. But, you know, that came to mind with your discussion. I do want to say that, you know, one of the reasons why we wait till we get down to step 4 and looking at the size of the district and the size of the project is because we are looking at, okay, how much money do we have in the street budget in 204? Okay, we can get this far with the amount of money we have. So we're looking at all the different aspects of it. Okay, if it's this size and there's this many potential special assessment properties, what does that equate to? So we kind of play out the size of the project per se. And you know, like in the industrial park with industrial and arch, you know, they're very close together. So that's one of the reasons why it makes sense. And if you have one on one side of town and one on the other, it's a little more of a stretch. Westwood, you know, had the upper part and the lower part, that made sense to put together, and that's what we did to benefit all of them. And then we also look at the utility side of it. Is there something that we can plan into the project that we know the BPU, water and sewer, has a problem with in that particular area, to try to parlay it all together. So when we're looking at the projects, my point is just that we're looking at all those aspects. The budget, the additional work, you know, to determine the size. And again, we don't know that until we've actually gotten through that second phase, down into the third, going towards the fourth, and for time. So Sam.
Yeah, I think Dave, I think you kind of highlighted what I was going to say, but you know, as for the suggestion that you know we provide the details to the residents, that is in effect what happens de facto when we get to 4. The residents get the details of the project. There is no council approval of the project that takes place before step 4. If the residents want the project or not want it, council decides, you know, when they're approving it as part of step 4, whether or not it should happen. If the residents, when they're mailed the plans and the specifications, you know, and the estimates, if they say, no, we don't want it for a street, they come to council and they say that, and council says we don't do the project. But part of the reason why we can't provide that information early on is because charter said, you know, as part of step 3, council decides what the project boundaries are. You know, how do we share details for a project if we haven't defined the scope, we haven't defined the boundaries? That's the other trouble with gathering the petitions. It's 50% of the property owners within the proposed district. If council hasn't set a proposed district, we don't know whether any of the petition signers are in it or not, because that scope, the boundary, hasn't even been defined. So all that stuff has to happen before, you know, the citizens or the residents from the neighborhood can make an informed decision on whether or not they should object. And all of that takes place before council ever approves the project. And in fact, if they don't, charter says the project doesn't happen.
Councilman Bentley.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions. Can you affirm what the city manager said, an email is fine for refusing the special assessment?
Yes, that's what I said.
You said
an email's fine, yeah. As long as you have your name on it, so technically it qualifies as your intended signature under the Michigan Uniform Electronic Signatures Act, sure.
Okay.
I would treat that as a written objection.
And secondly, my question is for any of the 3 of you, the language before the underlying part in step 4, public notice published 2 weeks and mailed 10+ days in advance. Is that charter, state law, or ordinance? Do we know? Where does that come from?
So I think so. Our charter does establish that the residents have to be notified. The specifics on the 10 days and 2 weeks might be state law. But what I can tell you is, so not only is the notice published, you know, both here, online, the city website, and the newspaper, but the residents that are in the proposed district, they actually receive a communication from the city that says you are in a proposed district. here is the project that's being considered, here are the specifics, here's the cost, here's the portion, the projected portion to be assessed, right, up to that cap. And so all the residents that are in that district receive that direct notification from the city.
I think that's partly what happened at Berry Street and what the intention seems to be for Oak and South, because, again, they're gonna take it down one way or the other, but we see the 2 weeks and the 10 days notice, that's not enough time to really mobilize, that's why they've pre-mobilized.
So just in talking with Jason, so I believe that's the minimum limit. So we actually typically give longer. Usually I believe it's about a month that goes out in advance. So, and I think that's common with a number of other notifications. When possible, we try to schedule hearings with sufficient time and provide more than the minimum required by law.
I just want to thank you for all your hard work that you've put into this flow chart. It's an excellent tool, I do think. So, Councilman Bentley.
And then I've already forgotten, at the end of the public hearing, do we vote and then it becomes, like, we're going forward, is that right?
So you, at the end of the public hearing, like other public hearings, you can vote or you could make that decision at a later date. So it doesn't need to be made at that particular meeting, typically they are, but you know, you could put it back on the next agenda and decide at 2 weeks.
I guess that's the wrong question. I meant to say, the signatures, the letters, the emails, the objections, that's the due date, is that right?
Yes.
Councilman Morris.
With respect to the emails, how do we know they're valid? In other words, if I have a signature, that's something that can be verified. But an email, anybody can send an email, how do we do that? How does that work?
You would have to have some procedure you would probably want to adopt some procedure for, it doesn't have to be something the council adopts, but something that city staff come up with a way to verify. So there are ways you can verify emails and email addresses that that it's the person who sent it to you is the actual person. And it's easy enough if their name's there and presumably they're indicating where they live because they have to show that they're within the district. Then at that point you'd be able to contact them just to verify that they intended that to be their objection.
And I believe that's what Katie has done in the past.
Yeah, I don't think you want to, the reason that I say so many people communicate by email, you don't want to have one of these situations where you get into a fight over whether or not that was really an objection, right? Or whether or not it was really in writing. Because these days the law treats, for the most part, in most circumstances, any email correspondence as from a person as being the equivalent of something that's in writing.
Councilman Flynn.
Two things. One, I think Mr. Morrissey was just saying, want to make sure that somebody wasn't sitting at home, the whole list of people that live on that street and sending 40 emails from the same.
Well, I get what he's getting at. What I'm saying is you would have to adopt a procedure to just verify that that person who's in that email, that they are in fact the person that objected.
And I do have a question, Mr. Mackey, that has nothing to do with the flow chart, but the packet that we got last week, I do have a question in regards to the local funding, which was page somewhere or other. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. We are allowed to assess up to X amount of dollars, but yet some of that is knocked down by the Headley Amendment. If I remember correctly, here it is, the street maintenance levy and then the voter-approved street and leaf collection millage.
So what page are you on?
I'm on page 17. How is street reconstruction funded?
Yes.
Street maintenance levy set by charter 2.5 mils, now 2.30 or 2.35. Then the 2021 voter-approved street leaf collection 3.5 for streets, half for leaf collection, now 3.334. If I remember, a few years back, didn't council override and are we allowed to do that and say, well, can we just bump it back up to 2.5 mils and up to 3.5 mils so that we can collect that extra money?
I'd have to get Tom's confirmation on this, but I think the override is a vote of the people. So
Okay.
that would have to go to the
Okay, I was just curious, since they've already voted 2.5 mils, for example, for the street maintenance levy, but we're only doing 2.35, you know, could we not just say, okay, let's bump it back up to the full 2.5?
According to the city assessor, no. Tom, do you have a different opinion? My understanding was that the rollback is automatic, and it takes a vote of the people.
You have to have a vote of the people.
Oh,
Oh, it's a Headley override vote, actually, is what they call it. So you have to actually have a vote to, and it's couched in terms of shall the city council of the city of Hillsdale assess, you know,
what you've already
this
said
much.
you can.
Yeah, but you have to get up over that Headley limit, so that's what you have to do to get over the cap.
Oh, okay.
And you have to do the same thing, like if you were gonna, if you wanted to assess a new millage and it was gonna put you over the cap, same thing.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the alternative, though, is just to put the millage on the ballot every 2 years, right? So that you only have 1 year of Headley reductions before it's reset. We do 10 years, so the Headley reductions become fairly substantial in that time frame. When does that expire? 29, 30?
31.
Oh, 31. Oh, that's police and fire. Okay, yeah, so I think the alternative would just be every 2 years so that it stays basically right at that amount. I think that's possible, right? We can set a millage length of whatever we want, I believe.
If the people decide that.
There are actually townships that do, we represented, that do that every 2 or 3 years, they adopt their road. Shall we assess this amount for road improvement purposes?
It might be a little more fickle based on the, current economic state of the city. There could be more uncertainty there, but it's a way to make sure you don't get that reduction every time. I have 2 larger questions, maybe for committee, but the way I read point 12 of the proposal in conjunction with point 5, so the second sentence of 12, grants will not be used to lessen the 50% portion of the eligible project cost to be assessed to the SAD unless grant language expressly restricts the use of SADs as part of the grant rules. Okay, so we're good on that for Arch and Industrial. The appropriations don't restrict it. Actually, just to clarify, that's the reason we're not doing an SAD on Broad, is because the grant prohibits it. That's right, okay. But
And that's why we did not do one, or did not consider one on Garden Vine, Mead, and Ribbon, because the CDBG grant prohibited that.
Okay. But when you read that in conjunction with point 5, the project cost will be shared 50-50 by the city of Hillsdale and the parcels defined as part of the SAD. It does seem like kind of creative reading to say that, well, it's 50-50 after the grant is applied from the city's perspective, but it's not the same for the parcel owners, if you see what I mean. It just seems that should be clarified, that it's after the grants are applied, because total eligible project cost would be 1.2 million. It'd be split 50-50, 600,000. I would assume, my reading of it would be the grants would apply dollar for dollar to each portion until you get down to the 400,000, and then there's a 50-50 split.
That's not how we've been administering it.
I understand that.
But that could be a suggestion.
Yeah, I think that should just be, because that's why I had that objection. My reading of it was what the same page Councilman Bentley and I were on there. So that might be something to.
If I might too, if you were gonna do it the way that the city currently administers it, either way, if you decided you were still gonna do it that way, the thing to do would be to amend the policy to make that clear, so it says that any grant money will be applied first to the city's portion of the project.
I totally agreed. I think that should be made explicit if we are going to go that route. Just the way that the provisions interact does not. The reading is plausible for sure, but I don't think it is exact. The other question, so section 2-355, the petition for construction or improvements. I don't know if I'd really noticed this before, but the owners, if they want to petition, it looks like they basically need to do all of the administrative work that the city would normally do, right? Complete legal description of each lot, assessed valuation for each lot, complete name and address of each owner, vendor, etc. It's kind of,
I don't think, if I recall, I don't think we required that with the first ones that actually came in through special.
Yeah.
Or through citizen request.
So, yeah, there's another provision.
oh,
If you look
okay.
at section 2-333, when the owners of a majority of the land liable to be assessed in any special assessment district then or thereafter to be constituted shall petition the council for any of the public improvements, the council shall direct the plans, specifications, estimates of cost be made by the city engineer. So they basically can just petition you and you start the decision tree from when they petitioned you as opposed to it being brought to you by city staff.
Right, but then don't you run into the same problem of what is the petition area, right? I think normally this isn't a problem. You have a neighborhood, you have some sort of natural geographic area that just has boundaries by the nature of the thing, but after that petition, can the council then tweak it, right? If people in the neighborhood, if people on Frisbee say we want this done, they say, well, we might as well do Reading and Armstrong too. Right, how does that, like, what is the petition area?
So presumably they would have to define what it is, what the public improvement is that they want, right? So if public improvement is that you repave Arch Street from this spot to this spot, okay, then that's gonna define your district. Remember that this special assessment process includes things that are not just improving streets.
Right.
So it would be a whole host of other things. If you live in places where they have lakes, and people live on the lakes, sometimes they make a special assessment request to people who live on the lake to have you dredge out channels or do something like that, right? And have that done by special assessment. So this could be any improvement that would benefit the properties in the city. But they would have to tell you what it is they want to have done. And as part of that, they're in effect defining the district.
Okay, but they bring something for it, right? Repave Reading Avenue, and the city gets it and they say, well, yeah, we'll do that, but that doesn't make sense, right? We need to do a whole lot more. I'm just curious, are we then bound by that in a really particular sense, or can the city then?
No, so the petition part only applies to what they've petitioned you for, okay?
But then the council can add.
The council could
Okay.
say, we want to propose that in addition to that, we also do this.
Okay.
And then we're gonna assess those properties, and that would in effect be theoretically a separate project in a separate district, but you could vote to lump them all together, right? There's nothing that would stop you from doing that.
Okay, so step 1 and step 1 are not mutually exclusive. Okay, that's what I was wondering. That makes it seem like we could just have the property owner's petition. Generally, we want this street done. Then we come to council and say, okay, well, here's what actually would need to be done. Here's the streets that would make sense in that area, and then we can give it more a more formal structure over time.
Yeah, and once we would get like the petition, we would discuss it as a staff and say, well, there's also this particular side street that might make sense, and we'd look at it, and then we bring that to council's attention during that process. Like, for example, Williams Court petitioned us, but that's just one street.
Right.
So they just petitioned for their particular street, which was a long street, and there was no adjacent offshoots, so we just did that particular street. But in like a Reading Ave, that could make sense that there was something that came off it, and we said, well, it would make sense to add this. And we would look at the budget and all that.
Okay.
Councilman Bentley.
What were the other citizen-initiated ones? Williams Court and anything else?
I think Williams Court and, what was the first one?
Was it Riverdale?
Lombard, that was Lombard subdivision.
Or Lombard, Hillcrest?
Lombard.
I thought Councilman Brunn's neighborhood was citizen driven as well.
Yeah, that's Lombard and Hillcrest, or at least a section of it.
outstanding thing I think that we need to discuss is whether we are trying to replace SADs and find a match for that money, whether we're trying to increase the total amount of money that we spend on the roads, or some alternative to that. That was what was lingering from the last discussion. We have $400,000 in new money. Special assessment districts are anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000. Are we okay with that slight increase that the state fund will create? Do we want that state increase with SADs? And if we want the state increase with SADs, is there a way to get that SAD money without SADs? I think we sort of need to answer those questions in succession in order to determine where we're going with the special assessment policy.
Councilman Flynn.
I honestly don't think we can answer that though until we get that check from Lansing. I'm still leery that, they're promising us $405,000, and I'd hate to make a decision and then find out that we got half of it, part of it, or none of it. So I think I'd be a little nervous to move forward until we get that check in the mail.
City Manager Mackey.
Mayor, I would just say to Councilman Palladino and Councilman Flynn and the rest of the council that, this is something that, we probably got a little time to discuss, and I think we've had some good discussion here about it. And the type of discussion that council needs to have to thoughtfully consider the policy and how we're doing roads. So, if that's something we need to plan for additional discussion, whether it's in committee or whether it's here as a council as a whole, and try to put it on when we have lighter agendas so we can have meaningful discussion and not feel cramped, we'd be happy to accommodate council however you see fit.
Yeah, Councilman Soha.
Keep it to 90 seconds, great. I'd be willing on public services to meet and hash this out a little bit deeper, but I've really been thinking about this a lot since Berry Street failed, and my thoughts are, did we do the city a disservice? There is provision for us by 7 votes to overcome a 51% or 50+1% opposition. That's in there for a reason. Maybe there is a project that is so important to the city that we need to make a hard decision, as Councilman Flynn stated a number of meetings ago. It was very eloquent. And I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying it's really just crossed my mind because Berry Street was more than just the pavement. It was going to be a big BPU project as well for sewer and water, and those are all very important things that we need to consider and to maintain. And then to add to that, this was new, kind of under number 6, step 6 to the far right. If it were to progress, there's an option that says annul the rule and direct a new assessment requiring a new resolution and another public hearing. And I was wondering if we could, if there was opposition, because I know there were a number of houses on Berry Street, for example, that Dr. Horton was one who wanted to be assessed because he wanted his street repaved. And I wondered if we might be able to discuss using that if there is 51%, and then looking at the rolls and saying, all right, well, let's direct the city to shorten Berry Street, for example, to be from 99 to South Howell instead of the whole length of the street. I don't know, just something I've been thinking of.
Councilman Bell.
I agree with Councilman Stuchel that these discussions should be in committee, and I agree with Councilman Soha that the public services should meet in January. And the last thing I'll say is, whichever direction we go, however this works out, I don't want to forget the Berry Street. I still would like to fix Berry Street very much in this 2026 year, so.
Any more discussion? Okay, then I will close the discussion and we will go into miscellaneous reports, proclamations none, appointments none, other none. So we'll go into general public comment. Please state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing no public comment, then we'll go into the city manager report, city manager Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor. Don't have much to add tonight. I just want to thank the council for the good discussion tonight, and I wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay. All right, go into council comments.
Question for city manager. You were gonna look into the mailers that went out soliciting committee members and such?
Yes, Sam, we did look into that, so I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, thanks, Councilman Bentley. So I'm talking with Kim. So what it is, it's a letter, and it includes the guide that we have on our website, which explains the different boards and commissions. And according to Kim, she sent these out since 2013, so it's not like a citywide blast, but she's just been working on it like street after street, neighborhood after neighborhood as time allows. So I think she's currently in about Ward 3, and she's done this for more than 10 years. What we used to do is when residents would move here to the city and they would file their principal residence exemption back when they had to come to the city to do that after being here for a period of, I don't know if it was 2 years, they had to renew it or something. We would have like a packet or a mailer, kind of like a welcome to the city of Hillsdale thing for new residents, and that was something that was provided. When the state changed that law and made it so we had less citizen interaction, we didn't necessarily have to come in and do that, she started sending them out in an effort to just over time get them to the entire city. And she sends it to it's city residents, right? So your homeowners and the people living in the city, and it just advises them of all the different boards and committees we have. I believe that sheet now has opportunities for, I think, volunteer service. It talks about seasonal jobs at Sandy Beach, just a number of different ways they can get involved. So it's just a small ongoing effort, just kind of street by street, if she gets a little bit of time at the end of the week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions for city manager Mackey? Seeing none, okay, I'll stop questions, and then we'll go on to city comment, or council comment. Any council comments? Councilman Flynn.
I would just like to say nice job to the city staff and to everybody that participated in the Christmas parade a couple of Saturdays ago. It was very well done. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Jason Walters and all of the others who came up with, on their own for the most part, the opportunity to light up the courthouse, and that's one of the things I think that will really help the city, is that when business owners or just city residents take the initiative, instead of constantly saying, why isn't the city doing this, why isn't the city doing that, somebody like Jason taking the initiative, sending out a Facebook blast, putting it on the radio, that says, hey, for $45 you can decorate a tree, we'll put a sign up that says you sponsored. It really looks nice down there, it really does. And I think that with 2026 coming up, and more with the trains, and more with the 250th anniversary, if other business owners, if other members of the public just want to say, hey, can we do this? I'm sure the city would be more than happy to help, direct them, guide them, but instead of having the city constantly, being asked to do stuff, if others can do it and make our city look as nice as it does, I'm all for it.
Thank you. Councilman Bentley.
Going off of last week's meeting, I got a lot of feedback, negative, positive, confused, and I think maybe we're all confused, and we have a new mayor, so a new presiding officer, and I don't expect the attorney to necessarily answer this on the spot right now, and maybe it's a question for the ONG committee, but I for one, I was told today that we don't run by Robert's Rules of Order because it's not in the charter and or the OMA. So I would benefit myself, and I think we as a council would benefit if we understood the various relationships between, because I really didn't think I was out of line last week. I didn't mean to be. I don't know if you saw, but I made a motion that wasn't on the agenda or something. So I thought I learned from you months ago that anytime there's a motion and a second, that's kosher. But the various governing, the OMA, the city charter, the council, our council rules, the presiding officer, and the agenda of all things, I could benefit from some clarity. I could just go on the internet or ask AI, but I don't think that's a ruling either. So if you can, maybe in the future, or maybe right now, just kind of provide some clarity.
If you're asking specifically about something like making a motion that's not on the agenda, that is permitted. It's up to the chair of the meeting whether or not they're gonna entertain that motion, right? So in effect, you ask the chair, or in this council, it's the mayor, to permit you to make that motion, and then it gets on the floor, right, if it's seconded. But yeah, there's nothing that, things come up during meetings. You may decide, and sometimes you've done it, you've had a discussion about something, oh, hey, we don't have this part in here that needs to be there, we need a motion to do this thing or that thing that we didn't do for whatever reason that might come up. There's nothing that prohibits you from being able to do that, right? But the meeting is controlled by the chair in terms of who gets to speak, who gets recognized, all that sort of stuff, and that's true generally no matter what kind of parliamentary rules you decide to adopt. Robert's Rules of Order is one that organizations adopt because they don't go through and, like if you have a little nonprofit organization and you want to set up how you're going to run your board meetings or something. That's typically for people in the public for what they use. Councils and other governmental entities typically will adopt their own procedures in terms of how they're going to run their meetings and parliamentary procedures.
I think one of the confusions, if I may, Mr. Bentley, that we had last week was that last week was not a council meeting, it was just a committee meeting, so we weren't 100% sure if council rules still ran a committee meeting or if the...
So if you are there as a committee of the whole, it's been noticed up as a meeting of still the city council because a quorum of the council is there. And you can, if you so choose, make a motion and deliberate to a decision on it if it's seconded. Okay, because it is still a meeting of the council, you have a quorum. Even though you've noticed it up as a committee meeting, it should still also be noticed as a meeting of the city council. It's a special meeting of the council. And at special meetings, you could bring up business before the meeting. For an example, I'm on the school board in Jonesville. We have 2 meetings a month. Our first meeting of the month is a study session, we call it, but it's still a meeting of the board. We generally don't do any business there, but every now and then we have something that needs attention right away because there's a deadline or something like that, right? So at that point, someone can make a motion to do that particular thing and it gets approved because it again is noticed still as a meeting of the board. And so it doesn't matter whether we've said it's a business meeting or a study session, it's still a meeting of the board.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up, say it back to you, to see if I got it right. So Robert's Rules doesn't necessarily apply as Robert's Rules. And secondly, specifically about last week, when I made the motion, the presiding officer could have shut me down before the second or after the second or not at all, or was it just courtesy that I would add? If it's not on the agenda, I guess, how does that?
Yeah, so in effect, what you're asking the chair of the meeting to do is to have that be considered as part of the meeting, even though it's not on the agenda, right? So that's why you're asking permission to bring that forward.
And he can deny that permission, so he could have said, we're not gonna act on that motion.
Yes.
Before it's seconded.
Put that on the agenda for the next meeting or something like that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Thank you, Mayor Sessions. Councilman Bentley, the council rules of procedure, if you go to mayor and city council, I think the public probably doesn't know this, but yeah, we write our own council rules of procedure. The document's there. It's, I don't know, like 10 pages. And yeah, committee of the whole, it says all applicable rules apply as normal. And the presiding officer's decision is final unless it's overturned by a 2/3 majority of the council members. So yeah, that's I don't know how often we actually reference that, but we did amend it fairly recently. So yeah, we've looked over it, but that should probably actually be, we need like an initiation packet for new members. Council rules of procedure should be probably printed right in front of them for their first day. My question in regard to Mrs. Finch's public comment, what's going on? Was there some item of business that prompted that, or she's just saying,
No, I
let's
think
move
she
forward?
just came proactively. I
Okay.
don't think there's anything pending at this particular moment.
Have we received a ZBA application?
No.
What's the time frame on that for the appeal?
There is no time frame,
Okay.
but to the best of my knowledge, we have not received it.
Okay. I think the homeless transitional shelter ordinance is a great idea. It's just kind of odd when they have to come forward and they're like, are we obeying the rule? Just to have one thing, if you're building a homeless shelter, transitional housing, here's the ordinance, here's how you comply. I think that's a sound idea.
More council comments. I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody and have a Happy New Year.
And with that joyous thought, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second, okay, got a motion by Councilman Flynn, supported by Councilman Soha. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes, meeting is adjourned.
This is an hour and a half.